Mike Burgess first revealed the existence of this so-called nest of spies back in 2021. And it's worth remembering these events happened allegedly back in 2020 when the coalition was in power. So we are talking about events of about 4 years ago. But there was quite a bit of speculation at the time about exactly which country was responsible. A lot of that speculation, incidentally, centred on Russia or perhaps another country a little bit further afield. But now the ABC has been told by defence officials, by intelligence officials and others that it was in fact India. Now this comes off the back of reporting in the Washington Post, which was basically taking a very hard and detailed look at the operations of the Research and Analysis Wing. That's essentially India's overseas intelligence agency. And that was very heavily focused on efforts of RAW to allegedly look into, in one case, trying to assassinate an advocate for the so-called Khalistan movement in the United States, and in Canada, actually engineering through criminal links the assassination of a very prominent member of that community in Canada. So the ABC has basically confirmed that as a result of this, there were 2 Indian operatives who were booted from the country. This was done without fanfare, without any sort of announcement. It was done quietly, probably because the government is aware of the importance of the relationship with India and doesn't want to do anything to try and endanger it. And that these 2 operatives were allegedly after a number of things. They were after surveillance of the community. They were keen to keep an eye on the Indian community. They were also after sensitive defence technology, including technology that is involved with airport security. And they were also involved in trying to gather classified information on Australia's trade relationships. So it's a significant development in a very consequential relationship for Australia.
Has the federal government responded to this report?
Only in a very limited way. ASIO typically doesn't comment on any intelligence-related matters, and it's done the same this time, simply saying that as a matter of long-standing practice, the agency doesn't comment. Now, the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, he also got a series of questions on this morning. Perhaps unsurprisingly, he was very reticent to comment at all, simply saying that he was constrained in what he was able to say, and also making the perhaps obvious observation that Australia was intent on building closer security and intelligence, closer economic and security ties with India. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Obviously seen those reports. I've considered them. Obviously, in our own structures and processes, we discuss those kinds of things, but it's not something I'm prepared to go into.
Are they the actions of a friend? I mean, it's a simple question.
We've got a good relationship with India and with other countries in the region. It's an important economic relationship. It's become closer, I think, in recent years as a consequence of efforts on both sides, and that's a good thing.
Australia has been rapidly building closer political and security ties with India. Stephen, what does this episode say about the broader relationship?
Well, on one level, it's a somewhat unremarkable revelation simply because countries like India, particularly emerging powers, do spy on one another. It's simply a brute reality of national politics and international politics. So, in a sense, the fact that India is doing this is perhaps unsurprising. But the fact that it got to the point where 2 RAW agents had to be expelled quietly from the country does speak to a level of deep concern in the federal government, or at least elements of the federal government, about just how forward-leaning or aggressive some of these operations might have been. Of course, that doesn't mean that Australia is going to step back from the relationship with India. It's simply far too consequential for that. It's not just about providing a counterbalance to China in the region, although that's important. India's a major emerging power. It's going to be a huge part of the global economy, and across a number of realms, it's really critical for Australia to build closer ties with India. But the fact that India under Narendra Modi has become more nationalistic, the fact that it's becoming more willing to engage in operations, including allegedly assassination operations in Western countries, and the fact that it's willing to take an increasingly aggressive stance on issues like Khalistan does present difficult questions for democracies like Australia. As ever, there's no perfect answer. It's a balancing act.